All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays. They working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's time for the In Off the Bench podcast, and once again, we are off the rails. We are brought to you by the ASAP Network, live on Facebook with a star-studded panel. As always, we are joined by Chi-Town's finest, Mike Hughes, host of Mike on the Mic podcast. We are also joined by the best out west, one of our big bosses, breaking news bosses, Jay Ness. What's up, fellas? We got a lot to get into tonight, but first I want to jump right in to the NBA action. Lot of stuff to unpack here, but I want to start with you, Jay. First question. Suns are the number one seed out west, best record in the league, and don't have an all-star starter. Tell me about it.
Disrespectful. It's I don't want to dive too much into the Suns specifically because I'm going to touch on them a lot tonight, but it's plain out disrespectful how the number one team in the West, the number one team in the league, the defending Western Conference champions don't have a starter in the All-Star game. Disrespectful.
I actually do agree with you. I'm not sure we could debate, and we can get into this later, who should have been taken out, who should have been in, but definitely not having D-Book and Chris Paul in there. It seems odd. But Jay, before we dive right into each of our teams, I do want to ask you a question. Specifically, I think you can speak on this. Carmelo Anthony had an interaction with a fan in Philly. It later came out that the fan was ejected. Not only ejected, there were multiple fans ejected. He was also banned for life, and it comes out, Melo kind of talked about it later, that he was calling him boy. So let me ask you, so should he have been banned for life? And what are your thoughts on that as a whole? And was the punishment justified?
You know, it's that for life part. It's a thin line. It's a 50-50 thing on this one because you could say that the boy portion was a derogatory statement towards a racial slur. Yeah. Or you can just say, you know, he's calling him a boy. You know, you ain't playing like a man out there. You ain't. I mean, because there's, you know how it is when you're on the basketball court. You know, even running pickup games. You know, you say that you're playing like a little boy. You know, be a man and, you know, get big. You're right. Playing small. There's different ways of doing it. Do I think the dude was out of line? Yeah. Do I think he should have been ejected from that game? Yeah. Maybe ban him for the rest of the season. But man, that life part, I don't know. Mike, I believe in second chances.
Absolutely. Mike, obviously, for those that don't know the background, you know, Mike, you live in Chicago, right? It probably wouldn't be odd for you to maybe be the only white boy and play in a pickup game. So Talk to me about your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, little ass boy. That's what we say. That's what we do. It's my favorite thing to say. You a little ass boy, like get off me. You know what I mean? But that's very different than just being called boy. And it's not your boy. It's straight up. Come on, boy. Like when it comes across like that, it's very different. Now I've had games where I've gotten called boy by older white gentlemen. It's never anybody. It's never a minority calling someone a boy, which just speaks to the volumes. But it's something to where when I've heard myself be called that, I know, you know, there's nothing behind that. But to say that to someone, you know, of color, you understand the history behind those words, and you need to understand that words have consequences. So for me personally, I don't take it that way. But you know, I've heard my own friends, my own teammates be called boy before, and and we jump on that. And it's not because, you know, we're millennials and we jump on literally everything. It's because we know what the standard is behind that word and the tone of your voice when you're saying it. I don't think Carmelo would have reacted the way he did if he didn't feel like the tone of his voice didn't have meaning behind it. And, you know, if you're just calling someone a boy, like you said, like, I call you a little ass boy, Randy, like you know what I mean? Even in the tone of my voice right there, it's very different from like being called a boy. Like it's different. It's different.
Thinking about ejecting you off of the show right now.
Do it. I dare you. But they already ejected me off 2 other ones. They want me to have rest. They're LeBroning me. But it's something to where I don't know, man. Like there's a thin, like Jay said, there's a thin line. And a professional basketball game is not where you tread that water to find out that thin line.
And I think too, and Jay, back to you on this. I think that what we've seen over the past couple of years is fans get emboldened. You know, we saw again, I think it was Philly again, where the guy was flipping Russ off right to his face.
Right.
And,
yeah.
you know, you could count to Marcus Smart in college, and
it was Philly that hit Kyrie with a water bottle too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it might have been. It might have been. I think maybe we need to be talking to Philly, man. I think Philly's getting a little out of line.
I know this is a long time ago, but it was Philly came out here and they threw a rat on the court in the Phoenix Suns and Philadelphia 76ers game when Allen Iverson was there.
Philly's
so
on one,
Philadelphia fans, they be on it.
They wilding. Obviously, I think we need to, you know, I think that what the NBA is doing, you know, because in the past, obviously you saw that's how Malice in the Palace started, was fans just acting any way they wanted to. So I think that what the NBA has taken on this approach is really nipping it in the bud. Let's ban these people for life for saying things, doing things. And to be honest, there's nowhere other than the NBA that the players and the fans are interacting that close. I mean, there's literally people sitting feet from a guy inbounding the ball, inches sometimes. They come into the stand. So it's really it's a fine line. Obviously, you got to watch what you say. And just because you buy a ticket does not give you the right to say whatever you want. Because I guarantee you this. If that dude was out on the streets, he would not be talking to Melo in that same tone.
No.
But
no,
I don't want to. Go ahead, Jay.
No, I was just agreeing. No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. So, but I want to go back to the All-Star game. I know I wanted to get Jay kind of fired up before I asked him that hot topic issue about the Suns not having the All-Star and then dive right into that. But other than the Suns, Mike, I'll start with you. Who do you feel like the biggest snubs were in this All-Star game?
Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine to me was the biggest. Here's what bothers me about it, and it's not even me being biased, but Kevin Durant is the reason that DeMar DeRozan is playing shooting guard in this game. Kevin Durant's not going to play in the All-Star game. We've known this for weeks. So when you really look at it in all totality, Zach LaVine should be the shooting guard, and you should put DeMar at the 3. But it's neither here nor there. Now that's my Eastern Conference. Western Conference, man. Literally anybody not named Andrew Wiggins, I feel like was snubbed. That's ridiculous to me. Oh, well, it goes by position. No, it doesn't, because DeMar DeRozan's starting at the 2 when he's a 3. That's the reality of it. Like that's what we're doing. Paul George, to me, if we're going off of injured guys, is someone who was snubbed.
Absolutely.
I don't care what anybody says. Paul
he was
George,
injured in the MVP talk.
Right.
Right.
So how we have Kevin Durant on this list starting in the game, but PG didn't even make it. That's absurd to me. And I don't care about any of the Andrew Wiggins fans out there. 18 points is solid. It's solid. It's definitely 18 more than I would average in the NBA. And then some. But it's
you a
not,
little ass boy.
Right, because right. But at the end of the day, you got Luka out there, you got Book, you got CP3, you got all these other cats out there, and it's like, why are you here, bro? Like, you're literally like the K-pop thing. I'm not gonna speak too hard in the K-pop because I know they got a huge fan base, and I'm not knocking it. But 3 million votes because you are a fan of K-pop. That's how we're grading the NBA now. That's ridiculous.
I totally agree.
Ridiculous. But when Derrick Rose got 3 million votes the other year, the NBA just kind of completely ignored it and shied away. But that's neither here nor there. But we'll let Andrew have this one, I guess.
Well, he's going to have to, I guess, because the way they got it set up. But I think that a couple things that stand out to me, like you mentioned on the Wiggins, and I'm going to say this, this is a biased point of view. Desmond Bane's stats are almost identical to Andrew Wiggins, and obviously the Warriors have a little bit better record, but Wiggins, I think for the people that are really being honest with themselves, Wiggins is not the biggest reason for that. Wiggins is a role player in the same way that Desmond Bane is a role player. Now, we're talking about a guy in his second year versus a guy that was the number one pick. And I'm not saying you hold his past against him, but Desmond can make a case. If Andrew Wiggins can get in off of K-pop, my boy Desmond Bane, people need to start recognizing his name and voting him in because that's ridiculous. Right. He's way more entertaining to watch to me than Andrew Wiggins is. But enough on that. Desmond Bane, you deserve to be in the All-Star game. I got to ask you guys a question. As we've seen All-Star game, I remember as a kid watching the All-Star game, and you really watched it, not really for the game, which is still the case because nobody watches it until the last couple minutes.
Yep.
It was the slam dunk contest, right? That's what because we had the biggest. We had Neek, we had MJ, even you can go Gerald, I think it was Gerald Green. Even the Dwight Howard one was cool, you know, later in life.
Howard was dope. And the Blake Griffin when he jumped over to Kia.
Blake Griffin was cool, but the slam dunk contest, I mean, can we get that back? And can we get it to a point where it reaches the Ja Morant, LeBron? There's so many guys that everybody can dunk now, right?
Right.
Right.
But to me, that's what I think as the NBA has lost some traction as far as that weekend go. And this isn't even a weekend this year, guys. You got to remember, this is a one-day vacation in Atlanta. So Lou Williams is pissed. He ain't even gonna be hanging with his boys and, you know, having the lemon pepper hot wings.
But he ain't hit the strip club. He ain't
got no time. He ain't got Magic City. Ain't even time for it.
I'll be mad too.
Yeah, so I think we really got to get back to that. So let me ask you guys. I mean, could the slam dunk contest be back? And the only way to revive it, is it just to get big names?
I mean, first of all, who's in the slam dunk contest? Why are they? What was this lineup? Who picked this?
It's Obi Toppin. That's it.
I mean, Obi's won it. I mean, he walked in and won it. I mean, putting his shoes on, he won it that morning. Like, right. Who was like, I sign off on this. This is great. Because the lineup is horrible. And I think that's my number one thing that I would attack about All-Star Weekend with the NBA is we're letting fans pick the All-Stars, but y'all are picking the dunkers.
Yeah, facts.
It's backwards. Let us pick the dunkers. Y'all pick the All-Stars. Maybe you'll get it better. Maybe you get it right. We won't have this K-pop vote. But this dunking thing is for us.
Right.
This is for us.
It's gotta be.
I just think there's nothing. I don't even think it's like that though, because I don't think a lot of guys want to do it. Obviously, Gordon's made it clear he doesn't want to come back because he feels like he's always getting snubbed. Zach LaVine's made it clear after tearing his ACL, it's not really a focus to him. Zion can't even stay on the court long enough to be on a dunk contest. Nonetheless,
we're not even sure he can dunk anymore.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Right.
He can dunk some chicken fingers into some sauce, but I don't know about, a basketball. That's a whole different conversation. But it's coming to the point to where I just feel like these guys don't want to risk that injury. There's a lot that goes into preparing for a dunk competition. And not to say that, it's dangerous, but it's definitely something to where if Kawhi Leonard tore his ACL in the Western Conference Finals, that's completely fine. But if he tore his ACL preparing for a dunk competition mid-season, I'd be pretty pissed if I was a fan. And I kind of understand where they're coming from that point.
Man, I get that. But, I mean, we saw all the best athletes in the world do it for years and years, Mike.
Right.
I don't know. I just think it's man.
I just don't think there's any incentive. Like, there's nothing that these guys feel like they're gaining from doing it. So they're not doing it. It's lazy. It's lazy is what it is at the end of the day. Is there's no fun in it. These guys aren't having fun. It's all about the money and it's all about the end goal, but no one wants to do anything.
Mike, we got Frankie Cruz. They need to be on a contestant on The Bachelorette. Most eligible Chicago Bachelor.
The only.
Hey, but I agree, Mike. But there's guys. There's we don't have to have LeBron.
Right.
But where's THT?
Right. That's true.
Where's Barnes?
Yeah, I just don't think they want to do it.
Where's Brooks?
Right.
Where's
if I'm mistaken,
Cam Johnson?
Jay, if I'm mistaken, isn't it more of like anybody can enter the dunk competition? It's whoever wants to go can go. Like that's how it is. I don't think it's a voting system, is it?
No, I
think it's selection. Yeah,
they're selected. But speaking of, you mentioned Obi Toppin's name. Let's check in on Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin tonight has played 10 minutes. He's 1 for 4, 0 for 2 from 3, has 2 points with a -4 plus minus. Now he is playing the number
Was
3
it?
seed
Did
in
he
the
get
West.
a dunk? Is this 2 points a dunk at least?
Probably. It would have to be, right? I just think, but that's what we're missing. We know Obi Toppin from watching the league, but does the average dude know who Obi Toppin is? The reason that Dominique and all those guys, Jordan, because it transcended basketball. It was must-watch TV.
Right.
You know, the wives and the kids, everybody was watching free throw lines. Vince Carter's dunk. I'm so sorry I missed that one. Kobe, when he was younger, the biggest and brightest stars. That's why I think it would take a guy, and it's going to sound biased from coming from a Grizzlies fan, but a guy like Ja Morant, who right now is becoming an up and coming face of the league, a dude like that going out there and jumping, maybe grabbing the top of the backboard, and it's going to take something like that.
Right.
I think what happened is that we felt like we saw everything. What more could they possibly do? But if we're being honest, we've probably been thinking about NBA games, and there's something that we see all the time that we haven't seen before.
And that's where even when Ja and Zion were drafted, that was the biggest thing I was excited about, was those guys eventually being in the dunk contest. And I thought about it, you know, Aaron Gordon, you know, Zach LaVine, Zion Williamson, and Ja Morant, like for years to come in dunk competitions. I thought it was going to be the dopest shit in the world, but not a single one of them has wanted to do it yet. It blows my mind. And I do understand it to a degree for guys like Zach. If you tore your ACL, you obviously don't want to do it. And Gordon, I understand to an extent as well, because they just will never give that man the win. They'll just never give that man the dub. But I mean, be better, Gordon. That's at the end of the day, just be better. But I think, you know, guys like Zion, guys like Ja, I don't like that narrative of people saying, oh, well, they have more going on. Like, dude, when you were a rookie, you could have did it. Like, let's be real. Right. The Pelicans had nothing going on. The Memphis Grizzlies had nothing going on. Like, that was just the reality of the situation. Now I understand it. So it's the point where with Ja, you know, you're having such an amazing season. You don't really want to risk that. But Zion, if you're healthy, get your fat ass up and let's go see you do something, because the Pelicans are horrible. So at the end of the day, that's my boy Zach. My boy Zach said the All-Star weekend now sucks compared to when we were growing up. And that's just the narrative of what it is, though. And I think it's because there's really no beef. Like with Jordan, Shaq, Kobe, and everybody, even Vince Carter, like they wanted that title, but guys now don't care. There's no, I'm better than you. There's no one going tick for tack. No one cares.
Yeah, you're right. Well, speaking of the guys we just mentioned, let's get into some teams. But I gotta have my obligatory little blurb on the Lakers, and it ain't gonna be good. Before we get into our teams, I want to ask you guys about the Lakers. I'm gonna start with you, Jay. They've blown a 10-plus lead 12 times this year. That leads the league. 10-plus point lead blown 12 times this year. The frustration is evident on their faces all year. Anthony Davis is back now. The frustration was clearly evident on his face over the weekend. And now LeBron being, you know, in and out, swelling in the knee. They're 24 and 27 or 24 and 28. I got to ask you, Jay, can they fix this?
Man,
I was about to say,
no,
Jay.
No, they can't fix this. You know, and you know, Mike, man, we've been watching this roller coaster, and it's only gotten worse. And it's gotten worse from the inside out. It's gotten worse from you know, coaching. They're taking stabs at coaches. They're taking stabs at Russ. They're taking stabs at there's just so going on over there that no, this can't be fixed this year. The only way they can fix this team is to start planning for next year. That's it. Be ready for next year, because this year's done.
But is your Mike? I want to ask you to expound on that, though. Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You talking about planning for next year, but let's be honest, these guys aren't getting any younger. Is next year even a reality for this team as it's constructed?
You asking me?
No, go ahead, Jay.
I don't. Not as constructed, no. But again, when I say, you know, get ready for next year, if anything further happens, I don't care if Anthony Davis was to tweak one of his eyebrows, you set him down for the season. You know what I mean? Like you just plan for next year, and you play Austin Reeves, you play THT, you play what's his name they just got, Malik Monk, and dude from Detroit that just came over. I forget. I forget his name right now.
They're all horrible, Jay. It don't matter.
You know you're not sitting Russ. Russ ain't going, man.
But Russ can do this. This is what Russ lives for. Let him go. Let him do his thing.
I agree. Mike, what do you think, though, man? They're old. I think this is like one of the oldest teams ever in the NBA. And you got a guy in Anthony Davis that can't stay healthy. I mean, what's the move here? What's the move for the rest of the season? Does being in the 7 to 10? I mean, everybody says, if they get in, they can make something happen. But I have no evidence that they can make anything happen.
Right. I think you have to look at it from the perspective of, what's happened and what's happened in history's past, and you need to look at it from that narrative. We saw last year with Russell Westbrook, looking at them as a play-in team, they weren't viewed as anything with the Washington Wizards, and Russ played very well up to that point. And he in the second half of the season looked amazing and really was what brought them in. So I do think they do have a shot of bouncing this back. But the key point that you said is, and I know everybody, he's a Chicago native too, and everyone thinks I hate him. I don't hate him. I got mad love for him. I just hate his situation. Anthony Davis is going to be where and how far this ship will take you, because if he can't get it together health-wise, this ship isn't going anywhere. And that's the biggest problem, is because if say they make it to the playoffs and Anthony Davis doesn't play that much throughout the season with another injury or what have you, God forbid, this big three didn't have a lot of time to play together. And we saw what happened. I know it's totally different, but the Buccaneers, the reigning defending champs, the defense didn't have a single game playing together all season. They finally get a shot to play against the Rams, and they get wiped. And that's just really what it is they just don't have that chemistry, that camaraderie on the court. And I think at the end of the day, you have to look at it and you have to understand that, if any of these guys, big name guys like Russ, LeBron, or AD goes down again, you're looking at something that's really inconsistent and something that there's not enough chemistry to build off of. And I believe in these guys individually. I think they're great. But long term, I don't know how much longer they can do this. Now, I do think in the second half they can turn it around. We've seen crazier things happen. So I think at the end of the day, you just have to look at it every day and take it day by day. And that's something Freddie's been preaching, and I do hear him on that, because I remember when the Washington Nationals were the worst baseball team in all of the MLB right before the All-Star break, and they ended up winning the World Series in 2019. So I think, honestly, it's all about the leadership in that room. And if they're still pointing fingers at each other by after the All-Star break, I think that ship is sinking. But if they can get it together, come together maybe a little bit, we'll see what happens.
Well, Mike, speaking of coming together, camaraderie, chemistry, the whole thing, let's talk about the number 1 seed in the East.
Yes, sir.
32-18, Chicago Bulls. What are we thinking, man? You got injuries, obviously. They've been working through some things. But this is what I want to know. You're treading water. You've said it a bunch of times. If they can just stay, I think you said 1 to 6 is really, that's where you want to stay.
Yeah.
Get a good bottom. But I got to ask you, is there concern on your end from some of the losses, losing to these, what should be inferior teams, even given some of the injuries?
It's a huge concern. Losing to the Magic is unacceptable. Being down 20 to the Thunder, I don't care if they won. I don't care if we won by 1. Like, we won by 1. A win's a win. No, it's not, because that was horrible. You shouldn't just win by 1. I think Vooch has played outstanding. Vooch has had 4 games in a row of a double-double, had 1 game where he didn't, and then 4 more games of a double-double. So Vooch is playing out of his mind right now. And I've been very critical on Vooch all year. But what I'm noticing is, Zach LaVine wasn't playing for some of those games. DeMar DeRozan was rested for some of those games. And I'm still waiting to see Vooch take that full-on role as the number 2, number 3 option with LaVine and DeRozan out there. Now, obviously, it's a little bit of a sabotage, Randy. I got my conspiracy theories. We got 6 to 8 weeks on Caruso, Lonzo, Patrick Williams, and Derrick Jones Jr. All 6 to 8 weeks, not 5, not 4, not 7, all 6 to 8. Conspiracies, I'll sit here all day and talk to you about them. But at the end of the day, I do think we're good. We're solid. Like I said, I don't care where we place as long as all these guys come out healthy. But what my biggest fear right now, Randy, is the trade deadline. I don't want these guys to make a move just to make a move. I think if it makes sense, here's my biggest one. And we were just talking about Obi, so I'll give a little bit of an example. They're thinking about trading Patrick Williams. Maybe he's in a package, maybe he's not. Maybe they're thinking about trading Kobe White. if you can get something like Mitchell Robinson and Obi Toppin for a 20-year-old Patrick Williams, that's perfectly fine. But don't sit here and give me blue balls about Sabonis, Miles Turner, and all these other guys that we don't need right now. Like, make it make sense. Give me Obi. He can play the 4. And then we can have Mitchell Robinson be the big on the bench for Vooch. I think that's solid. That's something I'm not opposed to. But if I'm giving Patrick Williams or Kobe White up, it better not be for Miles Turner, bro. I'll blow a gasket.
I mean, you blow a gasket more on that or when Grayson Allen comes to town?
March 4th. March 4th, Randy. That's all I'm going to say.
Something coming.
I refuse to incriminate myself on live television. But March 4th, I'll be at the United Center. I just know that.
I'm just going to say that. Well, Jay, I got to move to you because I got a question for you. I mean, not to incriminate yourself, obviously, but no, the Suns, first of all, number 1 seed in the West, 41-9. Are they ever going to lose again is my first question. And do you think that maybe by not having an all-star starter that it motivates them even more to say they still don't respect us? What do we got to do?
You know, at this point, it's not what do we have to do. At this point, it's let's punch them in the mouth. Because at this season, if we didn't do enough last season to get the respect that we're the only team with a 10-plus game winning streak, and we have 2 of those. One of them now we're up to what, 18, Mike? Were we close to that? I think we're close. We're around the range.
Yeah.
Now, since Memphis had a 9-game winning streak, it was Golden State was 13 of 14 games. They won 6 straight, lost, and 6 straight again.
Yeah, Chicago had.
So we're the only team with 10 game winning streak or more. So we got 2 of those this year. Also, Phil Jackson. We want to talk about this the Messiah. Phil Jackson said the way that you measure a real contender in the NBA is the 420 rule, which, by the way, I love the 420 rule. But
do you?
The thing about it, but the thing about that, and the reason why I bring that up, because 40-20 was the marker. We hit 40 before 10. Okay. So what do we have to do? What do we have to do to show you guys that we're real? We're here. And then I want to make one recent. Cut off for a second. I apologize. But let me make one last point about this. The most recent 10-game winning streak has come on a 5-game road trip. Okay. During this 10-game winning streak and this 5-game road trip, we've had Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton, Cam Payne, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder all this time. And we're still whooping that tail. So we don't need the respect. We're going to just grab it.
Debate with your toast. The Suns are definitely hot. It's definitely a team that I hope that getting into the playoffs, the Grizzlies can be on the other side of the bracket. Don't have to see them to the Western Conference Final. But enough about the Suns. Let's get into the Memphis Grizzlies. Live check-in for those following at home. The Grizzlies are tonight in the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, taking on the New York Knicks, and they are up 111-102 with 151 remaining. Check in on your favorite players. Tripp has 24 and 9. This is what the stat that jumps out to me is that tonight Triple J does not have any blocks, Mike. No, he's the block panther, for crying out loud. Ja got a sweet little 20. The biggest story tonight, and I'm going to move on to what they've been doing, is Zaire Williams, 9 of 11, 3 for 5 from 3. Got a 21 spot himself. Desmond Bane, 3 for 16. Not a good night for Desmond, but more on him later. But guys, the Grizzlies still the 3 seed in the West, 35 and 18. Took a loss the other night to the 76ers without Joel Embiid. Obviously, not the way you want to do it. You should beat that team when they don't have Joel Embiid. Tobias jumped off. He popped off. He's a great player. Well, I'm going to say, I ain't say great. He's a good good player.
Yeah, he has his moments.
He does have his moments, but I think that what really stood out to me is that Ja missed a couple of free throws down the stretch, and he also had 9 turnovers. Now, we crucify guys like Russ for having the turnovers, so not a lot of people were criticizing Ja, but Ja came out and criticized himself. He said, I have to be better. Put that loss on me. If anybody's mad, be mad at me. I missed free throws down the stretch. And what it showed me is leadership at such a young age, and we forget that these dudes, you know, especially Ja, these dudes are barely legal to drink. I mean, him and the average age on this Grizzlies team is like 24.1. They're the second youngest team in the league. But to see leadership like that just further solidifies the fact that Memphis finally has a superstar, and it's also a superstar willing to be in that role, willing to be the leader of the team. And I saw more in a loss like that in a tough spot than you even see when he's out there talking his ish, dunking on folks, blocking folks off the top of the backboard. So I thought that where they're at, I couldn't be more happy. This is supposed to be a rebuilding year, remember, for the Grizzlies. So to be in the 3 seed, going on the road, even though it's an under 500 team in the Knicks, that's not a game historically the Grizzlies have done well in. So happy to see that. And Obi, he still ain't doing nothing. That boy ain't got no points. No. He ain't doing nothing. You can dunk, but he's only got 11 minutes and 2 points. So Obi, practice your dunking because that's the only time you get, son. So we're going to transition over into the NFL. Enough about all these teams. The Grizzlies they're coming for the 1 seed, Jay. Just know that. We're going to start with some coaching hires. And I was listening to my boy Mike on the mic on 1252 Chicago the other day, and I had to talk Mike down now when they made this coaching hire. But I was listening to his pod, and it's the same way that Josh showed growth and leadership. My boy Mike has come to terms with the fact that they got their guy. He's buying in. Mike, I'm going to let you talk about it.
Yeah, man. Eberflus. I love Eberflus. I've been listening to him. I've been listening to everything he's saying. My one problem with him is he said the whys, and if you aren't a Bears fan, you don't understand that. But Matt Nagy, every single press conference would say, we're going to find out the whys. But that scared the shit out of me. I was like, whoever approved that man's speech is blowing it, because they do not understand that. But his difference with the whys was he had so much football knowledge and so much terminology that he was actually using, and he was geeking about it. He was excited about it. He was excited about sharing his philosophy and sharing about his ideas about, you know, molding these players and actually changing the scheme of what he wants to do to build around what he has, which is the difference between what the Bears have been doing in recent years is that, you know, if you didn't fit Matt Nagy's system, then we just weren't going to use you at all. We were going to have 12 different tight ends and not use a single one of them. We're going to make Mitchell Trubisky throw 40 times a game and not run out of the pocket once. You know, we had situations. Jordan Howard, you know what I mean? 1,000-yard back 3 seasons in a row. Yeah, we'll use him when we feel like it. We'll use him in the pass game. Like that's to me where Eberflus won me over. So I love Eberflus. Luke Getsy, you know, as our OC, that is the only one to me I'm questionable about right now. But Aaron Rodgers was pissed that he left Green Bay. And he made that clear that he was upset about it. So, I mean, if Aaron's upset about it, I guess that's a W. I'll stand by that one. But you know, Aaron's pissed about everything. So I'm not gonna throw too much stock into that one. But it's definitely something interesting right now. I think that, you know, we're experimenting with. Personally, I wanted Brian Daboll, but with all the news going around about Brian Daboll, I'm happy I don't have Brian Daboll. But it's a whole experimental process. I love polls. I love Eberflus. Even though my first show I called him Elmer's glue, I apologize. I didn't know your name, bro. I didn't know how to say it. But it's definitely going to be a fun ride. I think this guy's gonna have a lot of fun moments. I think he's an explosive guy. He's a player's coach, and he's an intelligent coach. So I'm really excited about it. We got hard-nosed football back, and we don't have a car salesman like Matt Nagy. I'm fully on board with it.
I'm glad you came around, my friend. Jay, I'm going to talk to you. We're going to get into some deep stuff in a minute, but I'm going to start with the Broncos. They get their guy, Nathaniel Hackett, speaking of Aaron Rodgers being pissed. But really, I want to talk more specifically. Do you think that with Nathaniel Hackett taking that job in Denver, was there talk with Aaron Rodgers, you think, a handshake deal to try to get him to Denver? And would the Packers even do that, knowing now they lost their OC? Would they really lose their franchise quarterback at the same time?
Good talk, Jay.
As far as like a handshake deal, no. I think that Aaron, bro, I think that he's been through so much in the last few years with, speculation and, him not getting help and what are you going to do at the draft? And I think he actually wants to test free agency in a real manner. I don't think he ever really projected or seen himself ever really having a crack at free agency in his career. So I think that he really wants to take a test at this and kind of see what other teams kind of pitch at him. You got Tampa. We just named Denver. You got Washington. There's teams out there that are, quarterback deprived. And I think that, those teams have the ability to throw some money at Aaron. And in this particular situation, if you're not Super Bowl ready, the next thing to do at this point in your career is get some money.
No, I absolutely agree. So, Jay, I'm going to stay with you. We're talking about coaching vacancy. Obviously, the news came out that Brian Flores is suing the NFL, the Broncos, the Dolphins, the Giants, and he did a lot of press today. And Mike, will get your opinion on it too. But I just want to know your thoughts about it. Obviously, if the rumors are true or the allegations are true that the Dolphins were going to pay him $100,000 per loss, that's a huge deal. And I really I was shocked. The one thing I was shocked about, none of the other stuff, I think, was Bill Belichick being at the center of this scandal for the accidental congratulatory text. So I just want to really get your thoughts around the Brian Flores thing and where does the NFL go from here to make this right?
First of all, DraftKings, I hope you were on the phone with NFL lawyers because I want my money back. But outside of that, this is huge, bro. This is mafia-like conspiracy stuff. Like this is really disheartening. This is not something as a fan that I was, you want to see. We all know that there's systematic, racism, so to speak. There's systematic racism going on in the NFL. We obviously seen the John Gruden situation and how that, played out. But even when that was going on, Randy, Mike, even when that's going on, I mean, as a fan, it hurts. It hurts because as a fan, we're looking at these teams, we're putting our into it. Me, Randy, and Mike argue a freaking majority of the day about sports. And for it to come out that the respect for the fans that are able to build this for them, that they have zero respect for it. Zero. If you're paying to lose games, you have zero respect for me.
Absolutely.
And for everybody else watching.
Absolutely. Mike, I want to touch on something specific that Brian Flores said today that really struck me as a father of four. He said, I have two sons, they're 8 and 7, and I have a 5-year-old daughter. And when I look at them, I don't want them to go through some of the things that I've had to go through. Now, obviously, you don't have the 3-4 kids like I do, and Jay probably got a couple of too.
Maybe.
We don't know.
Somewhere.
But just to hear him say something like that, like, this isn't, to me, it's not, I heard people say it's about the money. To me, it's not about the money.
No, right.
To me, he knows that by doing this, he's probably given up money. He's probably given up opportunities that he might have gotten, but he's trying to right something that he feels is wrong. Right. And obviously, you and I can't speak to what it's like to be a black man trying to get a job in a dominantly filled white coaching executive thing. But just as you watched him today, what did you take from his emotion and what he said?
I had a problem with one thing. I just feel like he needs to really explain the background throughout the Broncos allegation and the Miami one, because I felt like not that they're false. I believe what he's saying. I believe he believes what that is true, and I believe that it is true. My problem is they were asking him very specific questions, and he was kind of not getting full down into the details of what that was. He wasn't fully throwing John Elway under the bus. He wasn't fully throwing the Broncos under the bus. He was kind of just being a little passive about it. And if you're making these allegations, I'm going to hate that there's going to be people saying, oh, well, he's not telling the whole story, this, and this. Tell the whole story. Tell the world. That was your moment to throw the entire Denver Broncos organization under the bus for what they did. And you kind of left some key parts out of it, and you could tell he was trying to do it in a respectful manner. But through what you're doing, Jay, I felt like you needed to really just hit the nail on the head with that one and fully explain yourself now, because it's different. It's very different between what happened with the Giants. What happened with the Giants was there's physical proof of what happened. Bill Belichick's text, there are physical screenshots of what happened. Now, this thing right here with Denver and Miami, it's he said versus he said. You know what I mean? Like, we're just seeing who said what and what has validity to it. So I need him to get the fans on board. And that's where I'm with Brian, but I need him to be more vocal.
But see, Mike, I hear you. I hear you. But I think that strategically, ESPN did what they did and got them on today. But I think also strategically, we know how powerful these lawyers are behind the NFL.
Right.
And if you want to be honest, if you're asking me, I told y'all 100 times, I ain't saying shit.
Right.
I'm sealed up, and my lawyers will talk to me because they can, talk for me, because, you say one thing and one out of context word could be copy and pasted into evidence, submission number 156862. You said this on ESPN show that morning. So I feel you. But I also know that the goal and what we're going after is much bigger than than getting the story out. And see, and to your point, Randy, of what you brought up, I touched on it a little bit this morning on the morning show, but I want to get a little bit into that today, right now. I doubt Brian Flores will ever coach again. Brian Flores pretty much sacrificed his career going forward to make sure exactly what you just said, that his kids, my kids, your kids, and that come from after this don't have to deal with the same things.
Right.
I said it before, man. Do you know how?
We're talking about a young man.
Still young. A young dude just barely getting started in this career, because this career, we all know, it's a 40-plus career.
Absolutely.
You got to be 40 some odd plus usually, unless you got your Josh McDaniels and a couple guys, but this is a 40 plus.
Right.
So one major thing though that I want to emphasize is, think about, it is better to pinpoint, because especially Off the Rails does a wonderful job in highlighting women in sports. But think about the little girl. Think about the little black boy. Think about the young Hispanic girl. Think about the young Hispanic boy. Think about these other, races and cultures and people that look at that screen and don't see someone that looks like them doing that thing, and when I say relate, they can't look out and say, this dream is achievable just by looking at the television, and that goes a long way. That goes a long way to the confidence that a little kid has in growing in the sport that he loves. That goes a long way into the confidence that the little kid has in performing in front of an audience, to be feeling like he's being accepted for what he's doing. And what Brian Flores is doing is sacrificing his life to make sure, and life is a little dramatic, but he's sacrificing his career to make sure that little kids that we just spoke about have that opportunity one day to look at the screen and see somebody that looks like them. And maybe they don't have the mother and their father support to back them. And that's the support that they need.
See, what
this message is.
I don't personally think it's the same narrative though as Colin. I view this as when everything with Colin kind of happened, the fans kind of trashed Colin. People weren't on board with Colin Kaepernick, and people weren't understanding what he was trying to do. But everyone right now is backing Brian Flores. Ever since the firing, everyone's been backing Brian Flores. So I do think at one point, I think it's going to be a little difficult for the NFL to, if he's really suing the NFL, for them to want to hire him later down the line. I don't know how that's going to go. But I do think he will get job opportunities again, because the fans are behind him, and the narrative has changed ever since 2015 when everything with Colin Kaepernick happened. Fans in the world in general, Black Lives Matter and everything else that has been going on, the world is so much more supportive than it was just a few years ago. That I think Brian is actually, where Colin was kind of blackballed into the point of where we viewed it Colin as a villain or as a man disrespecting America. We view Brian Flores as a hero, and we view Brian Flores as someone who's standing for something, like Jay's saying. So I do think Brian Flores might have an opportunity to coach somewhere else at some point down the line. It's just unfortunate that it's probably not going to be, anytime soon, and this is going to be for years, that this investigation or this lawsuit. It's definitely not going to be something that just gets fixed in a short period of time.
Well, and we'll end it on this because I got a couple more things to get into. I think that regardless of what you feel, about the Rooney Rule or however it goes, it's an odd look or a bad look that we have a league that's over 70% black. And it looks like we're going to have one black head coach, and it's the team that created the rule. It's so obviously, like I said before, I'm a white dude. I don't know what it's like to be in that situation. I just know the optics of that. They don't look favorable for the NFL or the owners that
Randy,
have the teams.
And just to finish on it too, it's one of those situations where the Rudy Rule is bullshit in itself, because you look at it and what the Rudy Rule stands for. I'll give you a draft pick if you interview a minority. Jay, I'm sorry. I'll do my one, but that's fucked. Like I have to give you a draft pick to give a minority a fair shake. That's why the rule to me is bullshit in all totality, is because you look at it from that perspective and understand that there's coaches and GMs that will only do that if you give them this, draft pick compensation.
It's built on a facade.
Exactly. It's built on racism. The rule is built on racism, and that's you could say it's to end racism, but you're not ending it. You're just bribing a kid. If Jay's son doesn't want to go on a play date with the kid next door, Jay's gonna be like, "Listen, bro, I'll give you a toy. I'll give you some sugar, some cookies, something later on. Just go play with this kid," and he's gonna do it. And that's what it is. Like, no, bro. Like, you have to fix the situation from within. There's racism throughout all of it, and I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah. So speaking of, as we move into the jobs that are left, I know we've heard some names out there, including Jim Harbaugh. Mike, you and I were involved in a debate earlier.
Get him.
I'm just gonna go on the record. I am a Jim Harbaugh fan. I don't happen to like the guy, and his personality is a little quirky. But if you're looking strictly at numbers, the dude is 44-19-1 in the regular season, 5-3 in the playoffs, 3 straight NFC championships his first 3 years. Things fell out of favor in San Francisco, the ownership, the front office, whatever. That shit happens. But to act like this dude is some kind of bad hire, and I just don't understand.
He's a great NFL coach.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess Jay, I'll start with you. What do you think is of the jobs left? The Vikings, the Dolphins, Jaguars. No, they have their coach. Of the jobs left, where do you think is the best opportunity to win?
I talk about this. Get mine in. Fuck the Broncos. Fuck the Giants. Let me get 2 in. I'm just gonna off default Minnesota.
The Packers too.
Off default, like with all these allegations coming out, none of the franchises right now over the next until the sanctions come out, what happens to them and the penalties and all this other stuff, unfolds. So I pick Minnesota.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think?
Wait, I thought we were talking about the coaches. What are we talking about?
Yeah, well, the jobs that were yes, we are. Jay had a little Freddie moment there. His internet was going in and out, so we're just going to go for this. The jobs left. What's the best team that if you were a coach, you're looking around like Jim Harbaugh, you got pick of the litter. Which one you taking?
Miami, in all honesty.
Even with Tua as your quarterback?
See, because I don't think they're a quarterback away. I think you're a run game away. Because I think with the weapons that you have, you don't need to utilize Tua. You need a run game. You have Fuller, you have Parker, you have Gesicki, you have the GOAT, my boy Jalen Waddle, who's doing his thing over there. But it comes down to it at the end of the day that I just truly feel like you bring in a real run game, and it's no shot at Myles Gaskins, but it's a shot at Myles Gaskins because he's dog water. He's horrible. dog shit awful. Like, I hate you. Every part of you I hate, and I will stand by that. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I picked him up in fantasy. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it's something to the point to where I think if they were able to get a good running game going, you really don't need Tua to be anything more than above average or average. Like, that's really what it is. And I think Tua has the skill set to be above average. It's just all about, can you mold Tua into to be the right thing, to be the right quarterback. So I think in all actuality, you look at that defense, you look at what they're building over there, they're not far off. And I like the Vikings. I want to say the Vikings. They're my division rivals, so I'll never give them too much credit, but they have great pieces over there. The problem with that is, look at Dalvin Cook's injury history and look at, what the future may look like for him. Adam Thielen is going to be out the door. Kirk Cousins might be out the door eventually. So then that defense isn't good. So right now, if you're in a win now, 1 year to win it all, see how far you can go, I'd take the Vikings over Miami. But if I'm trying to be there for 4 to 5 years and build something, I would gladly take Miami over the Vikings right now.
I don't think I would take Miami just based on everything that we're hearing and Stephen Ross, and they fired a coach that didn't have a losing season.
Well, Randy, you told me the team.
I agree.
You didn't tell me, if we're talking about the ownership and everything.
That's a team, baby. I'm going OG here. I got to think about the whole situation.
And fuck all of them then.
Hey, that's why I said that's why I started it with no Denver, no Giants, no Miami, because off the top, I can't look nowhere else. Like, I have to look at Minnesota.
Right. Like, well then in that case I have to go with Minnesota, but it comes down to it at the end of the day. Man, fuck all 4 of them, really. Like, who cares?
Well, we're moving on to this last weekend's action, and I'm going to start. We talked about being a quarterback away. Obviously, we saw some great quarterbacks, specifically in the AFC. And Mike, I'm going to start with you because you've been on this Joe Burrow train with Jim, and I got to ask you, man. They came in as a 7-point underdog. I don't think we were on the show Sunday morning. You wanted to pick the Bengals. You ended up picking the Chiefs, but then you came back later and said that, oh no, I changed my mind. My man got the boots with the fur. I gotta go with my boy.
I had to.
So, but I gotta ask, should we not have seen this coming? Because we must not have been paying attention, because Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow do not lose with championships on the line. Right. Undefeated at LSU, undefeated in the playoffs with the Bengals. Tell me specifically. Everybody thought they should have taken an offensive lineman, and I still do agree, but they took Jamar Chase. Everybody just said, oh, that's a horrible pick. That's a horrible pick. He drops everything.
I said that.
These guys are leading their team to the Super Bowl in their first year really playing together. Joe Burrow coming back healthy. Did these two change not just their play, but their swag and the culture to change the narrative from the Bengals? They hadn't been to the Super Bowl since 1988. Smoking Joe comes in, boom, we're there. Tell me how they changed it, Mike.
I think they just instilled the LSU mentality throughout that. Joe Burrow is one of those guys who isn't getting mentored. And I think that was a big part of it. Andy Reid found out Joe Burrow got drafted and he said, fuck y'all, and left. Like, that was the reality of the situation. Andy was not playing that. He was not, no, I'm not mentoring anybody, which is weird because he ended up mentoring Fields just 2 years later. So good on you, Andy. But it comes down to it at the end of the day that I think Joe Burrow was able to be viewed as the leader from day one, kind of instill his own culture, his own mentality, instead of having to bring in whatever BS Dalton would have fed him or whatever anybody else would have tried to slide down his throat, that this is the Cincinnati way. There is no Cincinnati way. That's why literally it's a blocked road. There's construction that's been going on for years. Like, it's literally like you're in the middle of Chicago downtown. Nothing's getting done. But it comes down to the point to where you bring in Jamar Chase, and that screams volumes even more. T. Higgins is super young. Osumu is really young. Joe Mixon has just been waiting for something to happen for years, and he's finally getting it. And I said it on the show, Randy, and you were there. And the big part of why I believe in this team, and mind you, I was, watching the Bears game where Joe Burrow threw 3 straight interceptions to my Chicago Bears, and we beat them. So if they become the champs, really the Bears are the champs. But that's neither here nor there. It comes down to it, though. These guys on this defense aren't household names. They are not Odell Beckham Jr., Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford. but what they are is proven playoff leaders. And I said this to you on Touchdown Crew, and I said it on 1252 as well. You can always find me on Mike on the Mic, but it comes down to it to where they were down at half by, what was it, 21-3?
Yeah,
21-3. Now, what I told you and what I told Charles and everybody else was the thing about this defense is they've all been to the playoffs before. They've all been battle tested. So I actually truly believe that they were going to be able to come together and make adjustments because they've been in this situation before. Rather than come at each other's necks or just lay down, they were going to be able to put in that dog work, that ground and pound work that Cleveland pretends to have. You know, they were the dog pound in Ohio. They were the dog pound in the city that day.
We got a fat guy interception, Mike.
We got a fat guy interception. It was beautiful. But that's what I'm saying, though, is it's every man up mentality. And Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase live for that. Because if they can hold it down for Joey and Jamar, then they're going to be able to hold it down. And they're going to be able to go put up points because we know they can do that. So that's where I think that's what changed the narrative for them. I do think, and this is just me, I was up late last night just thinking, Randy, I don't think we're going to see the same Cincinnati Bengals team next year. I think it's going to be very different. You're going to see the offensive line revamped, and sometimes that's not always a good thing, even if they are better players. So I'm very curious to see how they look next year. I know I'm way ahead of myself right now. They still have one more game to play and a fake-ass Pro Bowl. But it's definitely something to where, right now they're changing the narrative. And we're talking about Patrick Mahomes being the second coming. But, Randy, remind me, when was the last time a quarterback played his first full season and won a Super Bowl?
I don't recall.
Ben Roethlisberger?
Very long time. Very long time. I believe it was Patrick Mahomes, wasn't it, Randy?
It was Patrick Mahomes.
It was Patrick Mahomes with far less than Patrick Mahomes, right, Randy?
I don't know if I'm going to say all that, Mike. I don't know. They got some – he didn't have no Jamar Chase over there, bro.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Sammy Watkins, though, right?
Yeah, okay, I hear you. And those are
and
good
Andy
players.
Reid, right? Hey, and a top 10 offensive line, right? Chris Jones, the Honey Badger, a bunch of great key defensive players. If we're talking about the next GOAT, Joey B is in the conversation, and he better be the next cover of Madden because Patty got 2 covers on Madden.
Listen, Jay,
don't be blessed. Don't wish that on him. Don't wish that.
Yeah, he's already had his injury, so we don't need that again.
He already tore his shit. It's gone.
Jay, I want to ask you something specifically because Mike talked about the narrative changing. At the end of the first half, the Chiefs up 21-3. They're at the goal line and decide to run one more play. And obviously, you can play, what would have happened, what if. But to me, I'm a guy, and I know Andy Reid takes risk, but I take the points because then I'm up 24-3 going into halftime. Instead, you get nothing. They get the ball back and you turn it over. I'm going to ask you, do you think that mattered at the end of the half?
Yeah. We're going to stay with my theme for this show, I guess. Disrespect, bro. That is disrespectful to the Bengals. Standing on the other side of the ball, like, wow. They think little of us are our defense where they're not going to take these points. They're going to take this chance to shove it down our throat, and this is my thing, Randy. If you go back to the beginning of the season when Kansas City was losing, the reason why they were losing is because teams were attacking them. They weren't sitting back trying to play this chess game with Patrick Mahomes, which you're not going to win. They weren't sitting back playing timid with Tyreek Hill. Now, at that time, they were putting single coverage on Tyreek, making him catch passes. Okay, because that's a problem that Tyreek Hill has, is actually catching the football. So if you put that tight coverage on him, you force him to actually catch the ball. Now we're in there. Now we have a chance to beat Kansas City as long as you're tracking Kelce. So what happened in that first half was they threw everything at him. And that offensive line was always they've had issues all year. They were just able to disguise it. After about week 5 or 6, Andy Reid was like, "Nah, man, we got to figure this out. We're looking horrible out here."
Right.
So he was able to disguise that. And that's what we seen in that second half of the game where that defense felt disrespected going into halftime. That defense was pissed off. And coming out, they went and smacked. And you said it, Mike. we talked about it a few weeks back as well, Mike, the beginning of the season about Cincinnati. That defensive line is so underrated.
Yeah,
they're so overlooked, and they're a real smash mouth, smack you in the face defensive line, and it wears on teams towards the end of the game. So, that's the one thing that I, looked at in that Kansas City game. And I was going into that game, I looked at as a possible deficit on the Kansas City Chiefs side that Cincinnati could attack. And I'm really, I was really excited to see that overall difference in the attitude of the trenches in that second half.
right.
No doubt. Mike, real quick, I want to end it on this and we'll move on to the NFC. You kind of spoke on it a little bit, but a lot of people, like, what does the future look like for the Chiefs? Patty Mahomes looked really, mortal, and he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that. It was the passing of the guard. Joe Burrow is the new face of the AFC.
Right.
I just got to ask you, though, people forget that Patrick Mahomes is 26.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 26 years old, man. Do you think that
what
they'll
are you
be back
asking,
next year, right back in the hunt?
Yeah, of course. I think they're going to be in the hunt, but Randy, if you could, you know what? I'll do it, Randy. We got some time. We're going to look up the ages of other guys that are going up against Patty now because the game has changed. We're looking at Josh Allen, 25 years old. Joe Burrow, I think he's 23. Justin Herbert, I think he's 24. We got a lot of guys out here right now. Hell, Aaron Rodgers might join that list of someone that's joining the AFC. We don't know.
There's grandpa.
Right. And there's Grandpa's pissed. Grandpa's pissed. So
right.
We'll see what happens. We got angry Grandpa. So I don't know what's gonna go on with that. And how that's gonna turn out with the Denver Broncos and everything else. But whoever it may be, it's definitely something to where, you have to look at it and understand that you're not the clear cut, face of the franchise. Like, of course, for the Chiefs he is. Of course, for the Chiefs he is. But for the league, Patrick Mahomes has some competition coming his way. And I definitely do think he's going to have to continue to hold that title. Now, obviously, right now, Randy, I think he still is clear-cut the face of the league. Well, you could say it's Tom, but Tom's gone, so you know what I mean. But I think other guys are coming. And if we're being completely real, Joe Burrow wins this Super Bowl. He's 1-1 with Mahomes. So really, what else does he have to do? You know what I mean? So it's going to be a tight race. And Josh Allen and Justin Herbert aren't too far behind. So I do think at the end of the day, I respect Patty. I love Patty. I'll never forgive him for making Bears fans pissed when he threw up what number he got drafted when he played the Bears. I'll never forgive him for that. We didn't deserve that. Ryan Pace deserved that. But it comes down to it at the end of the day that I just think there's a lot of good competition. I think this is the best young football core of quarterbacks we've seen in a very long time.
We got a comment here. Let's bring it up. Grandpa can still play, and Grandpa has something to prove. Well, listen, John Monroe, Grandpa's had something to prove since 2011, and he hadn't done it. I love Aaron Rodgers. He's so talented. He's probably one of the most talented we've ever seen. But he's been having something to prove for a long, long time. Speaking of something to prove, we're going to move into the NFC. Jay, I'm going to start with you because these are two teams that you're really familiar with. They're in your division. Did this game play out like you expected it to, or how did you see this game going down between the 49ers and the Rams?
Oh, yes. Yes and no. It played out exactly how I expected it to as far as the Rams defense, bro. What they did the week before, and then they did the week before that to us. I mean, they were on a tear. And Jimmy G is Jimmy G.
Leave that man alone.
I'm trying, but he don't give me a reason not to.
Leave that man alone. He's just trying to leave in peace.
He's only got 2 playoff losses, Jay. Well, I mean, we bang on Aaron Rodgers for not being able to get it done. Jimmy G's only got 2 losses in the playoffs.
You right, Randy. You right. But every time Jimmy G loses, he throws like 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes. So I mean, 2 interceptions in the last 2 minutes.
I was about to say I'm down with 2 touchdowns in 2 minutes.
Yeah, you got me over here fumbling. See, we talk about Jimmy G and got everybody on the team fumbles. So, but I just think that Jimmy just tears ankles and knees while he runs. But, I just think that the Rams are really onto something. As much as we like Cincinnati, I like Cincinnati and what they've done. I'm afraid for Joey going into this game.
Very afraid for Joey.
Bro, that D-line is something vicious. Von Miller, he has a killer look in his eye. I ain't seen this since that run in Denver that year. I mean, Aaron Donald, I know you guys have seen his workout tapes. Yeah. Dude.
I've seen him. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say that because it wasn't him. It was his brother. But I've seen what his brother can do in a fist fight. I can only imagine what Aaron can do.
Man, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much. And I really think that we're gearing up for probably one of the most exciting Super Bowls we've seen in a minute.
I agree. John came back with, will discount double check still be in Green Bay? Or where do you think he'll end up? So I'll go first, and I see Jay's nodding his head. John, I do think he'll be in Green Bay because the man's under contract next year. He really can't go anywhere unless the Packers trade him. Could he retire? Sure. But I don't think he's giving up the bag. I've talked on that on this show and other shows. I do think he'll be back. Mike, what you think?
Yeah, I think, honestly, Denver was the only place that I really saw him going, willing to go. And now – and Miami. But now I have no idea where Aaron would even want to go, and other teams can't really afford him. So I think Pittsburgh just got a lot more appealing, obviously, because they might not have a young core to be able to work with outside of Najee, and I don't like Claypool. I like the other one, Johnson. I like Johnson a lot.
Juju? Johnson.
No, Jay. No, Jay. We don't like Juju.
You mad because he's a better TikToker than you are?
He is. He doesn't do anything, but it is what it is. I need some TikTok help from Juju Smith-Schuster. But with that being said, though, I do agree with Randy. There's just too much money involved in it, and it's not as simple as everyone thinks. I think Rodgers will join another team one day. I just don't. I think it's going to be more so as a free agent than getting traded.
Jay, give us your thoughts.
There's too much stuff going on in the NFL for Aaron Rodgers not to get moved around right now. I think that the Packers need to go ahead and cut their ties. And if Love is your guy, like you freaking preached, let it go. Let's start this Love era. I mean, I know.
Let's do it.
Hey, I know you'll love it. But,
I will. Jordan Love's great.
Hey, right. Depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you're not trying to play football, but I just think that giving if he's your guy, he's your guy. Let's go. But again, we've seen the Brett Favre situation. This is starting to look like a Brett Favre situation, and I think that by the end of this, it's gonna get so sour that he's gonna force a trade. That's my go on it. I think he forces a trade.
Well, you might be right. Only time will tell. But Mike, I want to go back to the teams actually that are playing in the NFC Championship game because we rarely ever see Rodgers there. Yes. But 49ers have a double-digit lead in the fourth. They had beaten the Rams twice this year, 6 straight times overall. Seemingly had a Super Bowl appearance in their grasp against Smoking Joe. What happened to the 49ers? And don't just tell me Jimmy G. Lay off my boy.
Nah. I think when you really look at it, how I look at Kyle Shanahan and how I viewed Kyle Shanahan for a very long time, great game manager, great guy who understands what to do. But the pressure is real. And I feel like when it's a regular season game, Kyle can win you that game, whether, there's 2 minutes left or 30 seconds left and he'll run the ball out. But I feel like the main problem for Kyle to me is when it matters, is when we're going into this and when you understand, what we're about to do and what this means and winning the Super Bowl or going to the Super Bowl, whatever that may be. I think it kind of gets too much for Kyle. And obviously, I purposely left out Jimmy G because you told me to leave that man alone. We already understand, that Jimmy G did not contribute and did not help to the 49ers being a big
Hey, leave the next Saints quarterback alone.
Listen, man, I don't even think I'd be the next Saints quarterback. You can't pay me enough.
Look,
but
Mike, it's simple, man. It's very simple. You hit it. It's when the game matters the most.
right,
And when you look at that game in the fourth quarter, here's really what won the game. It wasn't the 49ers, it was the Rams defense.
right.
The Rams defense in the fourth quarter just put the clamps on them, dude. Like, this is what the fourth quarter looked like for the 49ers. 6 plays and a punt, 3 plays and a punt, 3 plays and an interception. And that was it. The one guy that you got to get the ball to in those situations for the 49ers is Debo. He had 1 attempt in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Like that's the Rams either taking the ability to get him the ball away or putting so much pressure, which was what they did, that they couldn't handle it, man. And I mean, whether that's Shanahan's fault or Jimmy G's fault, fact of the matter is they didn't get it done in the fourth quarter, which what you said is where it matters the most.
Real quick, let's reset this a little bit. We have been joined, and we'll talk about what they've been doing. We have been joined by the OG DB and the producer, sponsored athlete, Jim Cross. Welcome to the show, guys. We're going to circle back because I'm going to give Jim his flowers. We're going to talk about Joe Burrow again, even though it makes me a little ill. But right now, Jim, I got to ask you a question specifically about the Rams. I want to know, why can teams not defend Cooper Kupp? They can scheme. They can slow down great receivers like Jamar Chase. You've seen in the playoffs. The teams are not going to let him beat him by themselves. But why can nobody do it against Cooper Kupp?
Well, obviously, there's the speed and route running elements within itself. But, I'm going to take it from what Travis Kelce said in an interview, talking about knowing how to find the open space. And when you're an elite receiver, you know how to find the open space. And sometimes that open space may be burning the safety straight down the field because you see it there. And sometimes yeah, exactly. Or it may just be hitting that out route and cutting at the right place, or just turn around and stop and hitting the stop and curl it around. And so Cooper knows how to find that open spot and get the ball. And Matt Stafford, has the ability to get him the ball. And so you can't take away his intelligence, I guess would be what it is, Randy, of the game and knowing where to be.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Look, DB, you obviously everybody was watching the game. All indications are that the 49ers are moving on from Jimmy G. Jim mentioned this next Saints quarterback. Might not be a bad fit, but I got to ask you, where does Jimmy G go from here? And do you think that Trey Lance is a better fit? And more importantly, can they be back where they were this year with Trey Lance as their starting quarterback?
I mean, it's hard to say that. How many times did we see Trey Lance on the field?
A couple games.
Just a couple.
So for us to say basically a rookie quarterback was in year 2, which is what he would still be because he didn't see the field at all. He's not
no
like
Joe Burrow.
No. It's not like
honestly, he's not even a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence. He didn't play at all.
Absolutely. Like he didn't see game speed. He didn't see, having to make reads in the moment. He's seeing it on a whiteboard, on an iPad, in practice, which is a total different animal than, a defensive line with DBs and everybody moving pieces and parts, and their goal is to come kill you. So, with that, I would say that the bar has been set. Wherever you want to place it is up to you, but I wouldn't be placing that bar too high without Jimmy G because he's proven that he can go there. He's proven that he can do enough. He may not do enough to win it for you, but he's proven that he could get you there.
Well, Jim, I'm gonna ask you this question because we saw a similar situation. Completely different, really, but we saw a situation with the Rams where they had a quarterback that got them to the Super Bowl. They was a winning team. They put up a lot of points that year, given the system with Jared Goff, and then they pretty much mortgaged away a lot of things to get Matt Stafford. Thought they're, a quarterback away. But let me ask you this: if the Bengals do pull off this upset, which I know you're going to pick them to do it, did the Rams is there a complete failure because you did the exact same thing with Matt Stafford, but you paid him a lot more to do it? I mean, tell me what your thoughts are on that.
No, I don't think it's a failure at all, especially, getting to the Super Bowl. The difference between Stafford and Goff, that team, Todd Gurley, that team was more run dependent, and it was completely different. Goff didn't have to do as much. And this year, Stafford, while they still do run the ball at times, we know that's not what their main thing is on offense. And so it's more about airing it out, as we talked about with Cooper Kupp, and now you got OBJ in the mix and Higbee and all that. And so I think it's a completely different offense than when they had Gurley, and Goff didn't have to do too much. But I don't think it's a failure, because when you look at the teams that were in the NFC specifically, because, Jay knows out west, that division is the hardest division. Mm-hmm. And so for you to come in, win that division, and make it to the Super Bowl, it's really hard to say it's a failure.
Jim, can I ask you just really quick, though, would you say it's that Goff didn't have to do too much, or that he couldn't do too much? Because there wasn't much at the time to me where I looked at Goff and said, I trust you to do this.
Yeah, if you listen to McVay's answers, it sounds like he didn't trust him to do too much.
Okay, but that's where I want
to. I'm glad a lot of shit.
Okay, but let's compare. Let's compare the seasons.
Go ahead.
Hold on, real quick, Jay. Jared Goff in 2018, right? 13-3 record. Matt Stafford 2021, 12-5. Completions. Jared Goff 364 for 561, 65% completion percentage. Matt Stafford 404 for 601, 67. So 40 more passes. Not a whole lot of difference there. Right. Yardage. Jared Goff had 46.88. Matt Stafford had 48.86. Touchdowns. Jared Goff had 32. Matt Stafford had 41. So that's a little bit more. Interceptions. Jared Goff only had 11. Matt Stafford had 17.
Right.
I mean, so this is the biggest thing.
I can swing it back around to Gurley, though, because I had him in fantasy that year. That dude had a lot of receptions, and he made a lot of things happen.
Right.
Agreed. But I think this is where the biggest misconception is. Everybody, and because to your point, Sean McVay did say this, taking the top off the defense. Yards per pass attempt. Jared Goff, 7.55. Matt Stafford this year, 7.36. So I think
that for data.
I mean, I wanted to compare those two because I think, this is my only opinion, if they don't win the Super Bowl, you have achieved nothing more than you did under Jared Goff, because he got you to a Super Bowl.
Right.
He did not win it.
The big part of that, though, and why they didn't win that Super Bowl to me was Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley having, I always forget what he had. Arthritis. He had arthritis in his knee, and he's been gone ever since. And that was a big part of it. I always say tendonitis or some dumb shit, Jim. I always do it.
That's what us old dudes have. Is that why you
we'll have the EMT in the comments just no, it's not that. Like, I'm just like, my bad, bro. Like, it's the same thing, but his knee didn't work. That's basically the premise of what I'm saying. But my biggest thing, and I think this comment right here hits it. John, first of all, I want to commend you on your Facebook profile. I love it. Please never change. But he says, so did Stafford save somebody's getting banged up, being a better QB? I think he did. The biggest thing to me right now is with Cam Akers. If this was Jared Goff, Cam Akers has a huge workload, and he's coming back earlier than anybody ever anticipated. So I think you're starting to see a problem. If this was Todd Gurley of old, the Jim Cross fantasy football Todd Gurley, I think we're not even having a conversation of Cincinnati being able to win this game. I think it's clear cut that the Rams are going to win it, because that's a powerhouse offense. And Matthew Stafford, throughout the entire season, Randy, to your point, yes, you threw more interceptions, but one, you're trusted more to throw the football, and two, you didn't have a run game, so you had to throw the football. You didn't have Cam Akers. Michelle looked horrible at times. Henderson looked horrible pretty much the majority of the time. Like, it was to the point to where they gave me a phone call. I played safety. They were asking me. I told them, listen, here's what happened. I'm going to give you a little insight, Jay. I told them, I'll do it, but Jim Cross needs to be my fullback. And they couldn't commit to it. They couldn't commit to it because they couldn't find a jersey that fit that big, swole man. But it definitely came down to it. And I think if Gurley was on this team still, it's a totally different conversation.
So, Mike, you just gonna disrespect my dude Daryl like that? You just gonna
yeah, you went after a Memphis Tiger.
Man.
I love him. That's my guy.
But you know what, Mike? Since we tied things to fantasy, he was my running back, and he got hurt and was a bust. To your point,
and that's why, Jim.
I'm not defending him. I'm not defending him.
He was my running back too, and he failed me.
Hey, real quick, we got to reel this in a little bit. We're running out of time. I want to circle back just a little bit before Jim and DB were able to join us. Jim, obviously the Bengals came in huge underdog. We talked about that 7-point underdog, go down 21-3. We know the rest, but tell us what you saw, obviously, as a Joe Burrow fan, what you've seen from Joe Burrow over the years. I mean, him and Jamar don't lose, right? They don't lose.
They don't. And, you know, to throw in Tyler Shelvin and Thaddeus Moss as the other two LSU cats on our team, they were on that undefeated team as well. So there's 4 guys who don't lose on that team. Maybe they just don't get the shine as the other and do as much. But what it really comes down to, Randy, is so they get the score before the half and then they get the stop, right? And we know momentum is everything. And so then they come out to start the second half and the defense is actually believing in themselves. They're pinning their ears back. And so
interception.
Exactly. But you know what I've been telling people? Joe Burrow's stats may not be the best in these playoffs, but there's something to say. We talk about like the Aaron Rodgers, for instance, and his team and, you know, the chemistry and everything. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and that swagger and everything they bring to that team, those guys follow them. It's no different than that offensive line sucks, but he don't say nothing about it. Dude, he loves on them dudes. You know, he might talk to the general manager after the season, but right now he's doing nothing but saying, hey, I got to be better. I'm thankful for my defense. I'm thankful for my line, you know, all the right things. And those dudes are willing to go to war for him. As far as Chase, like that guy, give him a 1-yard hitch route and you don't know what's going to happen. He's an amazing athlete. And so that game, slowly but surely, they got their way back in. The defense started to pin their ears back. And then I think ultimately, the Chiefs lost the game more than the Bengals won it because down at the end of the game, they tried to get too cute, wasting the clock, making sure that they had the final possession and the final score. The way they were moving the ball down the field in that game, on that possession, I felt like they could have scored at any time. But then they just started to play clock management, and it backfired on them. Would you not agree?
No, I definitely think that they got – I thought what they were trying to do was definitely run the clock out. I agree with you. They did a few things into the half. I think you talked about it, momentum. They got to score. You take the freaking points. You take the 3, it's a different game. I totally agree. But DB, before we go to Around the Horn, I want to go to you real quick and talk about Patrick Mahomes.
Bro. DB and Jim, I'm so happy y'all came on, bro. It's just different. It's like the whole gang's here. Like
hey, Randy, I do got one more Joe Burrow thing. I will give him his props on one thing. You know, Mahomes, when he runs, he makes it look effortless, right? Mahomes, but Burrow had 2 or 3 runs down the stretch. They may not look as pretty, but they were monumental.
Let me tell you something, Tim. Here's what we're not going to do. When we talk about a quarterback running, we're not talking about Pat. We're not talking about Fields. We're not talking about Joey. We're talking about Josh Allen, Jim. That's what we're doing.
We're only talking about elite quarterbacks right now, Mike.
So, I'm sorry.
DB, I want to go – DB, I got to go to you real quick.
Hold on. Hey, Randy, here's where it ends. If he was elite, he would have won the coin toss, period.
Hey, the man was not a no. He can't win the coin toss.
But wait, hold on though, because Joey B didn't win the coin toss either.
But that's
Joey B wasn't out there.
Oh, there you go.
Joey B wasn't out there because I made that call live. But DB, back to you, Patrick Mahomes. People talked a lot about, hey, Joe Burrow, he's the new sheriff in town. Is it the new face and all that? And that's great. Joe Burrow's been great. You got to give him his props. But I talked about this earlier. Did people forget that Patrick Mahomes is 26 years old, DB?
Yeah, I mean, here's the reality. If Brady has taught us anything, age is only a number. When you're good and you know how to win, you're going to win. And for all these people hopping on this Joe Burrow, he's the new guy, he's the face. They need to worry about an offensive line because I'm telling you, it's not if, it's when, and it's already been a win last year when it happened. So when we're talking about Patty Mahomes or the Chiefs in general, they're going to have him. They're going to have Kelsey. They're going to have Tyreek Hill. They got Andy Reid. They got guys that have been there before and know how to win. Like it's not rocket science. It's not chess. It's checkers, and it's just simple. They're not going anywhere. they're going to be right back in the AFC Championship with a chance to be in the Super Bowl, if not winning the Super Bowl next year.
Did y'all
5 straight years.
Did y'all have
mark it right here?
You know,
they will be odds-on favorite to win it all.
Mark it right now.
To begin
Allen
the year
is going to 4 straight Super Bowls, and not like the last time the Bills went to 4 straight.
I hope they do, because that means
he's gonna win.
Going with him.
He's gonna win.
Hey, Mike, I'm with you. I'm all about some Josh Allen, and that's actually what I was going to ask if y'all talked about. When you talk about Allen, when you talk about Burrow, when you talk about Mahomes, and you talk about the changing of the guard, you know, with Breeze leaving last year and Brady and Roethlisberger,
right.
You know, somebody asked, and I'm not going to talk bad about Lamar. I'm going to throw him in the conversation of the elite quarterbacks.
Why are we talking about a running back?
Exactly. But when you talk about,
man.
And you talk and Jay's guy Murray, when you talk about these young guys, these young talented quarterbacks, and the change in the guard, a lot of people talked about this could be the most exciting era at quarterback that we've ever seen. I actually believe that, because when you talk about the athletic talent of these guys and their ability to make throws on the run and move out the pocket, I think we're going to see an era that we've never seen before, and it's going to be fun.
Hey, Jim, I noticed that you didn't say Carson Wentz's name. I'm just curious.
I noticed that too, and you know what?
Because Wentz is going to win.
I wasn't mad about it.
Hey,
I noticed
Carson
Wentz and Tannehill got their own category, my guy.
That's true. Together.
We're just not talking about Justin Fields, but that's okay. But no, I do think here's what I'll say, and it's with complete disrespect. I want right now, all in their prime at the age of 22 years old, put Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Justin Fields, and Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, put them all on a line. And then I want you to get another line, get Big Ben, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, and I want you guys to run a 40. And I want you to see how fast this old age gets dusted in their prime. These guys right now are running like wide receivers, and they're throwing 80-yard bombs, and they're fun, and they're electrifying. It's great football. And I think we're seeing something we hadn't seen from the last regime, which is a 2-dimensional quarterback. You know, when we look at these guys, whether it's Breeze or whether it's whatever, they're pocket passers, they're field generals who can sling it and they can do their thing. They can move when they have to. We've seen Tommy Boy do it. You know, we've seen him throw a trophy off a boat, for Christ's sake. There's nothing the guy can't do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to it that these guys right now, they're just a different breed in what they are, and they're out of a lab. They're straight out of a lab.
But at what point though does that stop? Like, at what point do they go, I can't be a runner anymore?
I think that's
there's obviously going to be the age
transition, right? You have to see the transition. And Jay, not to speak for you, but I think you're seeing it with Kyler. You've definitely seen it with Allen. Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes was a scrambler off the jump. That's Randy's boy. Now you're seeing him sling it, side arming it, doing crazy shit at ease. And I think you're starting to see them transition into a dual-dimensional quarterback, and that's where Lamar is the one that's getting left behind, is because he's the one struggling to do that at a consistent basis.
But I think a lot of that with Lamar has to do with his team. And, you know, I want to take us back to where it was like the Dante Culpeppers, the Cordell Stewarts, the that little era right there, and that little pocket. And, you know, the difference between that era was trying to break out in that way as well. They were kind of moving that direction. But the thing about it is, and I think, Mike, you kind of alluded to it and hit it on the nail too, is the speed at which these quarterbacks are playing and doing what they're doing is just expedition. It grew. And you know, you look at a Dante Culpepper, who was a mobile quarterback back then, his speed is not even close. You can line him up with you look at like a Cordell Stewart. I can put Cordell Stewart in the talks with a couple of these guys, but you go to Lamar Jackson, you go to Kyler Murray, you go to those type of, and it's gone again. John just
Mike
said in
Vick's
the comments,
the only one,
Vick.
Right, and I think we're forgetting.
And
Cam Newton was definitely doing his thing too.
But Cam Newton's like a Josh Allen, your guy, because he'll truck somebody.
Yeah.
He'll truck somebody.
What about Dan Marino?
Yeah, I mean, Cam Newton. Cam Newton reminded me of like a Byron Leftwich. Just even I could even put him like a Ben Roethlisberger. When Ben Roethlisberger came in, he can move around a little bit. He's a bigger dude, and I just think that now we have different types and styles as
They're
well
in the
as
lab,
the
bro.
speed.
These guys are mad and made.
But you know what a lot of these guys got in common, Mike, and we talk about it a lot. A lot of them are also baseball players, and they're not getting hit as much because they all slide and they slide good. That's why Burrow, if you look, they showed that graphic of all the young quarterbacks. He's the only guy that didn't play baseball, and it shows when he tries to slide.
Yeah, I was about to say, you made that sliding comment.
His slides are horrible.
Ooh.
No, his slides, but I mean, if you look at Russell Wilson, if you look at Mahomes, you look at these guys Kyler Murray,
it's
they're
valid,
sliding and getting down.
Valid. Like even you understand.
Kyler Murray saves his life with slides.
No doubt.
He does. He saves his life, and I'm waiting for the day that it doesn't go his way. I'm terrified for it.
Oh, that's rude, man.
I mean that in like a nightmare type way.
Mike,
every time I see this guy slide, bro, I just don't even look. I don't want to look. I don't want to look at it because it's terrifying. He keeps Jay. Tell me where I'm wrong.
That
bro.
whole that you just said, I'm gonna have to edit it out. We're just
you got to.
gonna
But
cut
here's
that
what
whole
I'm
part
saying,
out.
Jay. When you watch,
you're not jinxing Kyler like that.
Jim knows it though. When we see guys slide, especially in the league, their heads go down too. But Kyler keeps his head up. He keeps his head up, and I'm looking at these middle linebackers just like leaning their shoulders in, and I'm like, put your head down. And I look at Joey B. He's got more than his head up. He's got his back up. He's got his legs turned. He don't give a shit about nothing, and that's Joey scares me. Joey and Kyler scare me.
And let me tell you something. We didn't even mention Randy or Daniels, guys. Before we even met y'all, these two dudes were arguing about Herbert and Dak. Both those dudes are mobile and can get out the pocket and make throws too, especially Justin. Justin be throwing darts on the run.
And I think we can all agree that Justin Herbert is way better than Dak Prescott. But to wrap this thing up, to put a bow on it, it's only fitting that we end the NFL talk with the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. And basically, he retired, and then the report came out that he didn't retire. His dad said he didn't. Essentially, what I think happened is that he didn't get to make the announcement, so he wanted to make it on his own terms. But I got to ask you guys a question. You, Mike, especially you're a social media guy, TikTok, all that. Why did he not just put out a tribute video like he's been doing, like some comedy or something? Break this news before Shefty could.
I think just so the young buck can get his comments out the way and the real men could talk. But I think when I look at what Tom's feed is, it's a joke. Like all of it. It's him messing around on TikTok. It's him messing around on Instagram. The Bad Boys for Life videos with him and Gronk getting off the plane. They're just messing around. It's them sitting in a kiddie pool together, drinking mimosas. Like it's funny stuff. And what Tom was doing wasn't funny. I think it was very hard for him to actually make that. And I think it was something where he just wanted it to be the most professional that it could be, not a TikTok, not a Instagram live, not a reel. I think he wanted it to be the way Big Ben goes about it, the way other individuals have gone about it, because I think it was hard for him. I don't think it was easy. To me, it was a Giselle decision.
100%.
I love Giselle. And honestly, she's right. She's right.
She's the GOAT.
The guy's got nothing left to prove. The guy's got no reason to still be here. And that's no shot at Tom, but that's just the reality of the situation. Godwin's going to leave. Do
you know who the team that Tom has a losing record to is, by chance? That's right. It's the New Orleans Saints. He's 4-5 against the Saints.
Listen, Jim.
I just think it was too serious, though, Randy. In all seriousness, I think it was too serious of a moment. And Jim, I'm gonna let you say it one more time and pretend I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
No, Jim. I got a question for you, Jim.
Thank you, Randy.
So obviously, we talked about when he did make a release. He posted something. I got to ask you a question. There were 3 words that were not mentioned in his original post, and that was new and England or Patriots. What do you think about that?
I mean, I didn't look too much into it. People were trying to make a story about it, but from what I read, they're actually going to sign him to a contract for a day and let him retire as a Patriot. So I think people are looking for a story there, but I don't think it was meant nothing to be about it. I think he just wanted to give a shout out and love to the Bucks for the 2 years that they gave him there.
DB, you're our resident Tampa native. I got to ask you, as a guy of high moral standard, a guy that spends his whole career in New England, do you think that he was on purpose that he did not mention the New England Patriots?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do too.
Do you think, I mean, the only thing that I can equate the status of Tom Brady in NFL is Michael Jordan in the NBA. You best believe the day that Michael was done, he gave the Chicago Bulls some credit.
Absolutely.
Not that other Mickey Mouse team he played for, but the Chicago Bulls. They gave him the chance. They let him be him, and he built that thing and created what the Bulls are today, really, and created his brand himself from the city of Chicago and the Chicago Bulls. So I think it's kind of personal. I think there's some deep-rooted things there, and I think that was intentionally done. Now, whether he goes back at a different day and says, hey, you know, writes a letter to the Patriots or the city of New England, whatever. But yeah, I think there's something there. What Jay, it is, I don't know, but something.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. We'll end this with you. Then we got to get to around the horn. You and Tom Brady. I think he's a little younger than you, but 44 years old, retiring, and Mike touched on it with the Giselle decision. Why retire now? Do you think?
So I'm going to answer this in two parts. Before I answer the why now part, I'm going to touch on the why he didn't speak about the Patriots and why he was pissed about the Adam Schefter thing. I think his whole plan this whole time was to your point, Randy, to go TikTok-ish, figure out an out in Tampa, figure out a way to make it publicly look real, getting out of his contract and out of the situation in Tampa, and in that one-day contract for England and retire. I think that was his plan the whole way through. And the Adam Schefter, fuck that. And
well, alrighty then.
Fifth of all time.
I don't know if Jay cut out. I don't know if Jay cut out that last part. I wasn't sure. What did you say, Jay? That last part?
Jay, you don't have to repeat that. It's a family show.
It's a family show. Jay's froze right now. There he is. There he is.
Oh, okay.
I was just making sure he said what he said.
Listen,
Jay's on dial-up internet right now. All right, y'all calm down.
Oh, I said
he's at Freddie's house. He's at Freddie's house right now. It's all good.
Listen, we got to put a bow on this thing. Everybody's been real here with us for an hour.
Before we do the around the horn, Randy, there's something I've been wanting to respond to. A comment. The line is 3.5 in favor of the Rams for those who are asking.
Yeah, John was asking an over-under, but he obviously found it because he asked us if he should take it. John, we are not gambling experts here. We're not going to
take the over. I'm telling you.
You should definitely take the over, though. But we're not gambling experts. Don't hold us hostage. But listen, we got to go around the horn for the last ones to join us. DB, what you got to close us out?
All right. So it's supposed to be, obviously we have 6 more weeks of winter, but spring is right around the corner. And when we think spring, what's that? How many more?
No, I just got 20 inches of snow, so I don't believe what you're telling me right now.
Well, I'm just telling you what I heard. So
well, I'm telling you.
Enjoy those 20 inches, man. But anyhow, when we think spring, we're thinking Major League Baseball. We're thinking spring training. But here's the reality, guys. They've made no movement or any progress forward. And I want you guys to keep this date in mind, February 8th. If everything can be resolved by February 8th, spring training and opening day can start, and most people will be able to report on time. Anything after February 8th, it's going to look pretty grim as far as starting on time, minor leaguers being able to report and start on time. And
I got a correction on the minor leaguer thing, Daniel, because Chad Dallas wrote me today and said they're reporting the 27th no matter what.
Hell yeah.
Well, okay. They might be reporting, but they ain't going to be playing any games. So there's that.
What if they all just get together and play pickup?
I mean, hey.
I suck at baseball. I ain't coming. I'll commentate.
You see how Jim did you there, Mike? He immediately thought he was invited to play. You weren't talking about you playing.
Hey, I used to own your wiffle ball field. You better watch your mouth.
DB, wrap us up with your around the horn. Jim, we're going to you next.
We're good, man. I think we're about to hit some critical time with Major League Baseball. Some decisions are going to have to be made because, don't we want to see the Cardinals play, Randy?
Absolutely. And I think they will. I think they're starting on time.
we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, you should.
Jim, what you got?
So before I do it around the horn, are we gonna go do our female athlete thing later, or is that something I'll do now?
You can around the horn right now.
All right. So, National Girl and Women in Sports Day. We've had a lot of talk about this throughout the day and our group chats and on the social media things. None of you guys like soccer. I do. Sorry. So I want to shout out the U.S. women's national team. Those girls have been fun to watch for years. They've been bringing in gold medals. Carly Lloyd retired this year. I was asked who my favorite female athlete was. It is Julie Ertz, the wife of Zach Ertz, two-time gold medalist, the center midfielder, the heart and soul of that team. And so I want to shout her out and all the women athletes today. You don't get enough respect. You're appreciated by me, though, and these guys here on this network. And so shout out to y'all. Today is your day.
Hey, just so real quick, who is the one that pointed out this day to you today? I just got to give me a little credit here.
Man, it was you. You sent me the message this morning. I would not have known until I hit social media, and immediately that hashtag was everywhere. But you beat them to the punch, no doubt.
Jay, what you got for you around the horn?
So in honor of day 2 of Black History Month, my message to the NFL is do better. Simple as that. Do better. We need improvement in many different areas, and let's start here. Outside of that, anybody that missed it, the major announcement we made earlier, we have officially made a partnership with the AAL. So I just want to put that out there. That is official, but that's my around the horn.
Mike, what you got?
Yeah, both of you bastards, so am mine. Black History Month is huge, so I want everybody to do a little bit of history and just, find out a lot. You can go through the horn of Major League Baseball. Jackie Robinson is always the name that comes up, but there are so many other African-American individuals that played such a key role into the building the foundation of where the major leagues are today, the minor leagues, especially the Negro leagues, and so many others. For International Women's Athlete Day, I want to shout out my girl, Michaela, out in Chicago. She's a killer. She's a softball fanatic. She's great at what she does. Dana Evans of the Chicago Sky, who's been on the podcast before, joining the ASAP network, who is a champion, the women, the most important athletic women in the world, the Chicago Sky, Candace Parker, and everybody else on
who never heard of her
roster. I had to give Randy his credit. Candace Parker's team, I want to say happy International Women's Athlete Day. It speaks volumes to what I'm trying to do in Chicago with just the youth and just showing these kids, whether you're a minority, whether you're a white kid, whether you're a boy or a girl or something in between that I'm not even going to get into because it's a whole different show and a whole different podcast.
Little ass boy.
Yeah, little ass boys out there. We're trying to make a change and show everybody that anybody could do anything. And I think this month in particular really speaks volumes to what that is because, Black History Month is just 1 month. But Black history is year round. And I think that's something that nobody really understands and comprehends nowadays. And I think that's definitely something we all need to be a little bit better at.
Well, and Randy, before you do yours, shameless plug off of Jay and Mike. We had Shay Campbell on, UCLA gymnast, Monday night. They actually did a Black excellence routine for UCLA. They have the most Black gymnasts they've ever had on their team this year with 4. So it's a really big deal to them. They have a lot of pride in it. If you ever get a chance, go YouTube it, check it out. Amazing female athletes with themselves. Check out that episode, hear her story. So how to get that plug in there.
Absolutely. So for me,
and go
ahead, Jay.
Well, my bad. I was just gonna say if you guys haven't, I'm lagging, so I apologize. If you
I
guys
love
have
Jay's
not,
lags. Jay's lags are my favorite thing in the world.
Please jump over it off the bench. I mean, they have a star-studded lineup of shows. If you haven't caught them yet and you're just now catching on to them over the last couple of weeks, go through the archive. There's a valuable message in each and every show. So
my favorite message too, DB says it at the end of every episode.
Listen. We're gonna wrap this up. For me, a little bit of breaking news. Jim Harbaugh has called Michigan to inform the school that despite interviewing with the Vikings today, he will be returning to Michigan for the 2022 season. Michigan, in the words of one source, was elated for his decision. Jim Harbaugh also told Wardell Manuel that this would not be a recurring issue and he would be at Michigan as long as Michigan will have him.
That's awesome, bro. Hey, really quick
on that.
Randy, before you do your around the horn, I got one last part. After my, Black excellence and women's excellence and everything else, one final touch. Vikings fans, suck it, because
goal. So that's what you got to do. Tell them
Skull Nation, baby. Keep rocking in the free world, bro.
So Jay kind of stole my around the horn. Around the horn for me is really to my co-hosts, to everybody that's here. Jay's doing big things, obviously with ASAP, getting the AAL, getting some things signed up. Some huge news coming soon from ASAP. To Jim, obviously one of the hardest working dudes in the room. The guest that he's able to get never cease to amaze me. The OG DB, obviously always laying it down, keeping us on track. Mike is the hardest working man in show business. Dude's on every show all the time. And me, I just get to be here. But so we're going to close it out today, guys. Great show. And as always, if you like hearing us average Joes talking X's and O's, please like and share us on Facebook. Retweet us on Twitter. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Comments and feedback are always welcome. And we will see you all next Wednesday on Off the Rails. And always remember, strong bodies, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We out.
Yes, sir.
Whole sports, all plays. Yeah. Whole sports, all plays. Whole sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.